Hello everybody and welcome to episode 34 of the video series in which we program an entire video game from scratch, from beginning to end in the C programming language. Before we start, I got an interesting comment on one of my previous videos. This comment was on episode 23, which was the episode where I first started using the Xaudio 2 library for audio. So the commenter says, hello, I have a problem working on a C program using Visual Studio 2019 on Windows 10. When I include Xaudio 2.h, I get a few hundred compiler errors. I believe the errors all stem from this one, error UUID, unrecognized extended attribute. Is there any way to get Xaudio 2 working with the C application? Well, yeah, I'm using it right here. But fortunately, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've been through this before too. And in fact, when I first recorded that episode, I expected to run into the same problem as this commenter did. And it was just luck that I didn't have any problems incorporating the Xaudio 2 library and header file, so it never came up. So what the deal is Xaudio 2 used to be C++ only. It didn't used to be compatible with C. It used some stuff that was only in C++ originally, and that isn't going to stop us. I mean, we could still use the library. We just have to make some tweaks first. So what he's talking about, let's see. His compiler says error C2485 UUID unrecognized extended attribute. And then of course there may be 100 more errors that come after that, but he is correct. That's kind of that's kind of the elephant in the room. You got to take care of that one first. So what you do is, let me go to main.h, and again, if you're using an older version of Xaudio 2, you might have to do this, but since we're using a newer version of Xaudio 2, it's been updated so that it natively supports C without any modification. But anyway, so you go here and you click on this, and where it says go to document Xaudio 2.h, click that, and here you can see here's Xaudio 2.h. And you don't want to modify this directly, because this is Microsoft's file, and you don't want to go edit this. So what I do is copy full path. That's what I was looking for. Okay, copy full path. Oh, my bad. This is how you find out what version of Xaudio 2 you have right there. That's the version of the SDK, the software development kit, that Xaudio 2 came from, is that version right there. So that's how you tell what version you have. Right. So here we are. We're in the SDK. Go and find your copy of Xaudio 2. It's in there, and then copy that somewhere. Make a copy of it. Put it in your project directory. I just have this here for demonstration purposes, but you're going to want to put it in the same directory as your project. And notice that I've renamed it to Xaudio 2C.h, and let's see, it's right here. There we go. So if you're going to make modifications to it, make your modifications to the copy of Xaudio 2.h, not the original. as you can see, I made some quick little edits to this header file so that it would compile cleanly in a C project without needing to use C++. So yeah, I basically just defined UUID right there, and it also needed a couple more definitions right there. And then the other thing that it needed was this right here. So the problem is that before, the file just had this this function declaration in it by itself, and where it was like extern C, and the compiler didn't like that. So I had to basically do, if this is a C++ project, then use the definition that it came with. But if this is a C project, then use that one instead. And that's all there is to it. So if this is the problem that you're having, you want to pause right here and copy what I did right here, and also these guys right up at the top. That'll fix the X-Audio 2 problem. Alright, close all this, close that. And again, we never had to do any of that, because when I included X-Audio2.h this time, I didn't have any problems. So X-Audio 2 has obviously been upgraded or reworked at some point, such that it is compatible with both C and C++, as opposed to being C++ only. All right, what now? Yeah, that does it for that. Okay. We need to, let me go ahead and run this. We need to make a tile map. I know last time, I think last time we split the source code files up into a whole bunch of C files and H files, source code files and header files, for the purposes of making the code cleaner, easier to read. Anyway, but what we need to do now is make a tile map. As you can see here, I'm walking on water. I shouldn't be able to walk on water. So, do you remember a couple episodes ago when I used the program Tiled to make a tile map? And not only does it create the graphics, but it also gives you a CSV file, which is probably right here. Oh, and maps, of course. This right here, this TMX file, and if you open it, you'll notice this is a CSV document, and it has height and width, so that tells us basically the height and width of this thing. And you could see, actually, it's got all these integers that represent the different tiles that you have in your map. And you could see these twos right here are the water. Remember, I got that little corner painted with water, and that's why there are these twos right here. And everything else is just tile, grass tile, just one single type of grass tile. So we need to load this file in our game so that our game knows what kind of tile we're standing on. Now, I will say that CSV parsing can be extremely difficult, even in a language that already has a CSV parsing library. It can still be fraught with peril, and that's just it's definitely not fun to do in C. It's not fun at all, but we have to do it because I really want to load this file. So we're going to write a function and we're going to call it, oh, you know what we're going to do first? We're going to make a data structure to represent this thing. Let's see, enums structures. I'll put it next to I don't know where I'm going to put it. Let's put it here. And I'm going to call it tile map. Type that struct. Tile map. And it's going to have a width. It's going to have a height. And then it's going to have uint 8_t, a pointer to a pointer of tiles. So this basically assumes that I'm never going to have more than 256 different tiles. Let me think about that. I guess I'm going to call that map instead. So this is going to be our array of numbers, of integers. It's going to be that rate. It's going to hold all those things. Okay, now I'm going to go down here to function declarations, and I'm going to, I don't know what, maybe dword, function returning dword called load tile map. And it is going to take a file name, I guess. Oh, and of course it needs a pointer to a tile map. Okay, main.c. Here we go. Okay, so first thing we need to do is open this file. Keyword result equals error success. First I'm going to create file. There we go. Just copying that. Handle handle equals invalid handle value. Change that to error just to be consistent. Okay, generic read, open existing. Over here we'll do if it's not invalid handle value, then close handle. Okay. All right. Now the file is open. I want to read the width and height attribute. I'm trying to think about how I want to do this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I need to get the total size of the tile map file. So Windows API has a get file size function. It needs the handle, and it needs some sort of D-word for file size. D-word file size. File size. And if it fails, what do you get if you fail? Oh, wait. I should be using get file size EX, which actually takes a large integer instead of a D-word. I was just thinking, what happens if you try to get the size of a file that's bigger than 4 gigabytes? That's why they made get file size EX. Large integer. Large integer. Which I kinda, doesn't matter. Alright, so if it fails, what does it return? If it succeeds, it returns on 0. If it fails, it returns 0. If. Alright. I'm going to make an in-memory buffer to hold the file. And I'm going to, let's see, file buffer equals heap alloc. Git process heap. Flags heap 0 memory. And then how much memory do I want? I want file size dot quad part bytes. File size dot quad. File size dot quad. If that failed, then we do error equals error out of memory. Error out of memory. Go to exit. Okay. Now we read file. File handle. We need the buffer, which is file buffer. Number of bytes to read the whole thing. Not overlapped. It's going to be a synchronous operation, so that can be null. And let me look up read file ex real quick. Read file ex. If it fails, it returns 0. Okay. I'm going to go back to WinMain. Oh, that reminds me. What I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to create a new data structure. Sorry for jumping around. Okay, so type def struct game map. And it's going to have a tile map. And it's going to have a game bitmap. What should I call it? Okay. And now I'm going to go to these globals. I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to instead make a game map called G overworld 01. Okay. Now I'm going to search for G overworld and the entire solution. And I'm going to, this is load 32 bits per pixel bitmap from file. I'm going to update that to game bitmap. There we go. Lit tile map to buffer. Something, I have messed something up. I messed something up here. Game bitmap. So why? What in the heck? What have I done? Lit tile map to buffer. So why did I even do this? This should be game bitmap memory, should it not? Must have been in a hurry when I did this. Which means this one is the correct one. Alright, that's fine. Do I use it anywhere else? Yes, I do. Lit tile map to buffer dot game bitmap. That should do it. Alright, now we're back in WinMain. Right after I've loaded the bitmap for our overworld, I'm going to do load tile map, and I should call this from file. File. Assets, maps, and we need to specify that TMX file. What was the cool trick? You could hold down Control-Shift, right-click, copy as path. Let's see what happens. Alright, that's fine. Alright, file name, and then we're going to load it into G overworld1.tilemap. that is not success. Is not error success. TMX. Loading. TMX failed. Load tile map from file failed. Go to exit. Good. Now, back to load tile map. Rename it to load tile map from file. We've allocated that. I'm going to go ahead and run this because I want to look at the file buffer in memory and make sure that it's working up to this point. So I set a breakpoint right there. Build started. Ever since we split up our code into multiple files, it increased our build times dramatically, which is not cool. Exception thrown. Access violation. Reading. Okay. Stop. Conversion from long to dword. Dword. Number of bytes to read. All of them. Parameter 4 and 5 could be 0. This does not adhere to the specification for read file. What are you talking about? Let's run it and see what happens. Okay. Handle. File handle, which we have. A buffer, which should be that right there. We're going to fill that buffer with that much. What are we doing wrong? Read file. Huh. Okay. Let's use read file instead, because apparently there's something about read file ex that I don't understand. Okay. Handle, buffer, number of bytes to read is that, and then number of bytes read is that. Keyword bytes read. And LP overlapped. is not. Return. Let's see it work now. There. We hit our breakpoint. I want to go look at, actually, let's look at file buffer, copy this memory address, go to memory 1, Doesn't look like we read anything, does it? Into file buffer. I kind of want to dock this somewhere. I just don't know where. I guess over here. Yeah, that works. Call stack. Yeah, that's fine. Huh, interesting. Overworld. $72 kilobytes. Read file. Succeeded. And then wait, what is bytes read? Bytes read was 0. Bytes read is 0? Oh, nice. $998. There we go. Now we've got the entire file in memory, which is wonderful. Oh, something else we need to do. If file buffer, we need to make sure and free that as well. That is going to be 0, and the memory is going to be file buffer. Okay, now that we have the file buffer in memory, I'm going to make a cursor. Cursor. And I'm going to use the str function, string, I guess is what it means. It's the C standard function for, standard library function for locating a substring. So, for example, and it returns a pointer. which we just made. So we made a pointer to a character. str, and we're going to search file buffer. We're going to search our file buffer for something. We're going to search it for the text width equals. And we're going to wrap this whole thing in a if. If we didn't find width in there, so it's going to scan this. It's going to scan this entire file or memory buffer now that we've loaded it into memory, and it's going to stop when it gets to right there. And then the value of cursor will be a pointer to that character right there, I believe. The one that comes, the quotation mark, the opening quote that comes right after the equal sign. But if we didn't find the word width, then something is obviously wrong. So we want to say invalid format, maybe. Is there invalid data? Might be a good one. Invalid. No, close. Invalid list format, pixel format. Invalid. Alright, let's just do invalid data and get it over with. And log it and bail. So it could not locate the width attribute. Okay. So now we're going to go through a loop where, let's see, I already have a bytes read variable, don't I? I do. I'm going to reset it. Bytes read equals 0. If bytes read is greater than, we'll say 6, I'm just making that number up arbitrarily. Or maybe it should be 8. I don't know. So what I'm trying to, the thing I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to validate that this number, the number that comes after this, is less than eight digits, right? It's mainly just sanity checking. That's my idea. Let's do 6. Okay. Actually, first we need to find that quotation mark, right? So if cursor equals quotation mark, cursor plus and break. Okay, so what we're doing is we need to make sure that this is a quotation mark, scan for the quotation mark, and see, this is important that we do this because this file is formatted well, but you know what? It is entirely possible that it could be formatted like that, so it could still be legit. I mean, it could still be valid CSV format. But yeah, like I said, parsing CSV is not a fun or pretty thing to do, especially in C. All right, we should have found the opening quotation mark by now. Error equals same error, invalid data. Go to exit. We need to log it. Could not locate the opening quotation mark before the with attribute. Okay, this needs to be else we just advance the cursor, and also we need to do bytes red plus plus. All right, another for loop for counter equals 0. Counter is less than 6. And again, I'm just kind of picking 6 arbitrarily. We'll just assume that the width is going to be 6 digits or less. Counter plus plus. Let's reset bytes red back to 0. If cursor equals quotation mark, that means we found the closing quotation mark. And we need to break out this loop. Else, we're going to do temp buffer counter equals Oh, cursor. There we go. Right. So we're basically copying. We're copying the text into temp buffer. Okay. Cursor plus plus. But what if the file is malformed and we don't ever what if we don't find a closing quotation? What if it's what if it's something like this, right? You gotta be careful about this. Okay. Let's run it and see what it looks like. So temp buffer should contain 240, is it? Temp buffer. So it does. It contains 240. The textual representation of 240. Alright, so that looks like that worked well. So tilemap.width equals, we'll use the good old-fashioned ASCII to integer function. Let me look up ASCII to integer. If the converted value would be out of range of represented values by an int, it causes undefined behavior. I guess that's right. I'm trying to think if there's any bugs in this code, if there's any way to make this code break. Okay, now we need to do the exact same thing. I'm going to clear out my temp buffer. We're going to do the exact same thing with the height attribute. 240 by 150. So I think I can pretty much just copy this all the way up to here. Oh, okay. Height. You know what? This function is also case sensitive. So if the XML file were in all caps, it would break. I guess we'll just assume. I don't want to worry about that right now. I don't want to worry about that right now. Okay. So now our cursor is, I kind of wish I could show you this on 2 monitors, huh? Our cursor is like right here. So we need to make sure, you know, we need to scan the next few characters and find that opening quotation mark. Even if, like, we could assume that the next like character is a quotation mark, and then we could just fail if that isn't true. But I think it's a little more robust this way. Okay. Width, did that. Did that. Okay. Okay, we should have found. Wow. We should have found the opening quotation mark by now. And I mean, I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys this, but of course, anytime you are writing an infinite loop like this, you've got to be extra careful to make sure that you can break out of that loop in all cases. Like you want to make sure that you never get into a situation where this could turn into an infinite loop and break your entire program. Which I'm doing it by unconditionally incrementing bytes read. I could do it differently. I could use a for loop with using bytes read. In fact, I think if you look at like the JPL Jet Propulsion Laboratory Coding Standards, this is one of those things that they definitely do not allow. So if you're programming like very important stuff where lives could be at stake, like, you know, avionics software, you know, space shuttle software, things of that nature, that ain't gonna fly. They're not gonna let you get away with that. But for a video game, I'm gonna do it anyway. So let's try to find. Everything else is fine, I think. So we're going to just change this from width to height. We set a breakpoint and make sure everything is working up until this point. And we have our tile map 240 by 150. So that is working correctly. And we truck on. Now, if you recall, we have, where is our, okay, our game map has inside of it a tile map, and a tile map has a pointer. So we need to allocate memory for this. And now that we have a width and a height, we know how much memory we need to allocate, right? We know the dimensions, we know how many bytes of memory it's going to take. So let's do tile map tile map equals heap-alloc get process heap flags heap 0 and bytes will be I guess we just need width times height. Now, let's going to give us that many bytes of memory. Something feels wrong about this. I think what I should actually do is do so that's the number of rows. We're going to do this in we're going to do two allocations for this. Okay. For tile map height, which is number of rows. Okay, and then we're going to need, okay, for unit 16, less than the number of rows, which is tile map height. Now we're going to do a bunch more memory allocations here. If tile map, or let's see, tile map, and then we index into this thing counter. Yeah. Equals heap alloc. Heap 0. And this needs to be heap 0 memory. Pointer size. And if that is null, then we are going to fail. Memory. Heap alloc failed. Go to exit. I'm really having to think hard about this, wondering if I'm allocating the correct amount of memory. But anyway, I don't think we'll be able to finish this function today. We'll have to wrap it up next time. But essentially, I'm just at the point where I've got the width and the height. I allocated this memory, and I'm going to, I've got this two-dimensional, basically this two-dimensional array of memory, and I'm going to fill it up with these numbers. And I'm going to skip the comma. So I'm going to have to scan through and find like each comma. I guess. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to do this. Certainly won't be hard though. I guess we could key like str encoding or something like this, and then we could scan for the next new line byte or something like. But then how would you? What if the file is formatted like that, where there is no new line? Anyway, I don't want to save that modifications to that file. Alright, so I think things are going pretty well. I'm going to have to wrap up this function next time because that's all the time we have for today. So, as usual, thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions or comments on any of this stuff on this entire channel, don't hesitate to leave your questions and comments on the video, and I will address any interesting questions or comments in an upcoming episode. Also, don't forget that we have a Github repository that goes along with this project so that you can clone that repository and follow along with me at home. And lastly, if you want to see me continue development on this game, if you enjoy where this is going, where this is headed, like and subscribe and tell your friends and all that good stuff. So, that's all I have for you today. I will see you next time. Bye.